stabilize. Okay. Well, it is 4 o'clock and it appears that we are entering the webinar. I want to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Pamela Shaw. I am on the leadership team of the Lewis Stokes Midwest Regional Center of Excellence. I will be your moderator for our webinar today on post-bac programs. Just to let you know, this is being recorded and you will receive, if you're an attendee, a link so you can get the recorded version of this as well as any materials. And it also will be posted on the LSMRC website so that you can look at it again, share it with your friends, because we hope it'll be something that you'll be very interested in. Of course, our talk today will be post-baccalaureate programs. And just to kind of give a little reference to that, it's pretty much what it says. These are programs designed for students who have completed a baccalaureate degree. Generally, there are a lot of different post-bacs. There are some post-bacs that are specific for different degree programs or career incentives for students. There are some that are specific for medical schools. There are some for dental schools. There are some for graduate PhD programs. So generally, they will give you some type of timeline. Usually, you should have completed that baccalaureate degree within a certain time frame. They'll tell you if it's a year, 2 year, whatever. That's just a very general overview of what a post-bac program is. It's usually designed to help you get to that next level. Often students will seek out post-bac programs when they may have been not competitive enough to enter a program of choice, or they just don't feel secure in what they know and they want to just really feel better and they want to move on to that next level. Specifically, today we have post-bac programs that are entitled PREP. And PREP is a program funded through the National Institute of Health, through the National Institute of General Medical Sciences. And there are about 50 of them across the US. And what we're going to do today is hear from 3 specific programs, one in the state of Colorado, one in the state of Indiana, and one in the state of Oregon. And then we also have some alumni who are going to also give some insight, and one's in the state of Illinois. So she'll chime in as well when we get to our questions. So what I'd like to do is move right into our next section, because I think the best way for us to start our discussion is to hear about each program. And what I want our panelists to do is to introduce themselves and then introduce the programs to us, tell us a little bit about it in maybe about 5 or 10 minutes. And we're going to go in state alpha order. So we'll start with the Colorado PREP.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Chandra Fordham, and I'm the coordinator for the PIKE PREP program, which is, as Pamela said, is in Colorado. And we are associated with the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus. And our program is a year-long program designed to prepare students to enter into a PhD graduate school, top-tier graduate school following completion of the program. Students participate for a full year, and they do a research experience combined with professional and career development activities. And our program also pays our participants a salary. So they get paid $35,000 to participate, plus an additional stipend of $5,000 to purchase benefits, so healthcare, dental, vision benefits. We also send all of our students to present or attend a national conference. And this year we did SACNAS and Abercam, so they got to choose which one was better for them and their schedule. And then all of our PREP cohorts get automatic interviews into our graduate school. So that's kind of a nice little perk that we have as well. We have requirements for admission into our PREP, and that's that you need to have completed your bachelor's degree in a biomedical science or related field, that you have the coursework in the biomedical sciences, because ours is a biomedical PREP, and that you need to be considered underrepresented by the definitions of the National Institutes of Health. So there's racial and ethnic classifications that would qualify you as underrepresented in the field, but there's also disability, if you have a disability, or if you are classified as disadvantaged, and that information is outlined on our website a little bit further. And you need to have gotten your baccalaureate's degree within 36 months of starting the prep program. So, and you need to be a U.S. citizen. That's the NIH guidelines as well. Don't want to forget about that. But we do have some slots in our program, so we're able to accept on really limited, it depends, on a case-by-case basis. Some international we can consider, and we can consider DACA students as well. Dr. Shaw, is that good? Do you want more?
No, you did just fine. And actually, as you talk, I'm quite sure we'll have more information that'll come out how the programs will both overlap, because they're all done through the same supported funding agency. But then there are differences, because I read a little bit about each one. And so that's something we can bring out in our question time. But thank you very much. So let's move on to Indiana.
I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I still know how to mute. Deb, you want to put the slides?
Sure, give me 1 second. I'm just choking on a tortilla chip.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rafael Bahamonde. I am the Dean of the School of Health and Human Sciences. I'm also actually in the leadership from the Louis Stokes Bit with Research Excellence. And also I'm the director of our IPREP program. And go ahead, next. So our IPREP program is very similar to the one at Denver. It's funded by the same agency. We are looking for students that are the post-baccalaureate, that they just finished their bachelor's degree, and they are moving into, for whatever reason, they didn't feel they have enough experience, or they need more research experience to be more competitive, into a PhD program. Our program has been in place for 10 years. Actually, the day before yesterday, we got the official funding for the next 5 years. So it'll be, consecutive funding for 15 years. Our program is one of the few in the nation that have clinical psychology. And Eddie Salgado here is one of our students that he's being now in the 4th year. With 1 more year, he graduated from our program. We have numerous opportunities in biomedical fields. We have a very large campus, one of the largest, we got the largest medical school in the nation. So we have a lot of opportunities across the campus, and we have over 60 participating mentors across the targets area. Go ahead. Go ahead, Deb. Okay. Deb, you're still there? Okay.
I am. Can you not see it?
Yeah. Now it just been a little bit lax. So we have multiple targeted programs. We have, again, in psychology, we have clinical psychology and applied and social organizational psychology. We have basic biomedical sciences, and we have a whole different areas: musculoskeletal, microbiology, immunology. We have also one of the few programs in human performance. We have exercise physiology, biomechanics, motor control, biomedical engineering, and we just this year for this new year, we are artificial intelligence. And then we have the neuroscience, which is medical, and we have medical neuroscience and addiction neuroscience. Go ahead. Very similar to the Denver program, we offer a 1-year mentor research experience, a competitive salary, $35,000 plus with healthcare and benefits. We offer opportunities for professional development, networking, financial literacy programs, counseling. Last year we received a supplement for health and wellness, and we're working with the current students now in how to use physical activity for mental health and resilience. We similar support travel to national research meetings like Abercom, SAGNAS, and we normally ask the student to choose 1 meeting with their mentors at professional meetings. And we provide mock interviews for all our students so they can get really prepared for the interviews. Go ahead. So far, we have graduated 45 students from the program. 91% of them has been admitted into graduate programs, masters or PhDs. 84% has been admitted into PhD programs, and we have one person who's been into the MD PhD here at the School of Medicine. 20% of them have been enrolled at IUPUI, and 20% are from HBCU schools. And our students have won 5 IPREP posters, and our alumni has going out and getting graduate fellowships in other universities, and we have one honorable mention. So our program is very successful. We're now in the 10th year. We start seeing the first 2 cohorts graduating from the programs, but it's very exciting to see some of the people now. Go ahead. So if you need to contact us, we are in downtown Indianapolis, in this at IUPUI, and so this is my address and information about the IPREP. And like I said, Eddie is a graduate from our program, and he'll be, you can ask Eddie about his experience here in our program in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now let's move to our Oregon program.
Okay, hi everybody. Can everyone see my screen? Perfect. Okay, well, hi everyone. My name is Joyce Puretti. I am the PrEP program manager here at the Oregon Health and Science University in Portland, Oregon. I feel like my slides are a bit long, so I'm going to maybe skip over some things, but I'll make sure to share the slides with you and other folks in the audience in case you have any questions or want to follow up from what I provided. Okay, so our program is fairly similar to the other PrEP programs. I would say maybe one key distinction is our particular focus at the OHSU PrEP program is to support scholars who identify as peer applicants, so persons excluded by ethnicity or race, but the same eligibility criteria apply because we are funded through the NIH. And our focus is, again, to really support individuals as they prepare to go on to a graduate program in the biomedical sciences. So we do that through really particularly focusing on retention, creating a supportive and welcoming environment that's really focused on building sense of belonging. And a lot of our programming is focused on addressing sort of the hidden curriculum in STEM. I myself was a first-generation student in college and in grad school. I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I first started academia. And I think that, this program and a lot of the other PrEP programs really seek to demystify that process. So as mentioned, we are funded through the NIH. We are part of the national network of the grant supported PrEP programs. And we also do have some funds available through the Volume Institute here at OHSU that give us some flexibility to admit individuals who may not meet, let's say if they're DACA or international students on a case-by-case basis, but that's particularly with an association with the Volume Institute, which has more of a neuroscience focus. So we do evaluate those on an individual basis. The work that I do is not just myself. We are actually a team of individuals. So here are some of the representatives from the OHSU PrEP team. We have our 2 co-PIs, Dr. Wyatt and Dr. Westbrook, and I work closely with Iwana, one of our program coordinators. And we've been recognized through the NIH program for about 2 years now. We're going to be recruiting for our 3rd cohort year. We're in the midst of it right now. There actually was a pilot program a few years before that, which is particularly focused on neuroscience. So we have a pretty good cohort of alumni that have been at OHSU and have gone to study at other institutions across the US. So who applies? I think we covered this with the other PrEP programs. It's very similar with the focus, again, on individuals who have obtained a bachelor's degree no more than 3 years from the date of application to the PrEP program, with a focus on those who want to go to graduate school in the biomedical sciences and meet any of the NIH eligibility criteria, which is also on our website if you have any questions about that. Our benefits are I think, pretty supportive and vast. We really emphasize professional and career development. We provide a individual development plan for scholars and support them as they apply to graduate programs. Obviously, a key focus of the PrEP program is this year-long research experience. So individuals will be doing that in one of our research labs. We have a pretty similar salary as to the other programs. And I think on a few slides later, you'll see we also provide some relocation assistance as well as some funds to support like educational activities. And obviously, one other key component, not only is it doing research, but also the mentorship aspect, both through the PI or the faculty member that our PrEP scholars are working with, and myself and Awana and other members of the team also meet regularly with scholars just to kind of keep in touch on the experience throughout the year. Our growth sessions, as I mentioned earlier, are the sessions, these professional development sessions that focus on sort of demystifying the hidden curriculum of biomedical science education. And we also support our scholars in attending a national research conference like SACNAS or ABRCAMS. I'm going to maybe go through these a little bit more quickly, but we have just a year-long focus of our schedule, which include the growth sessions I mentioned, journal clubs. We also have a rotation component that individuals do in July. So as part of our application, which I'll talk about in a moment, you can specify 3 to 5 labs of interest. And then once you are admitted into the program, you will rotate with 2 of those PIs, those research labs, and then ultimately make a decision on which one is the best fit. And that'll be your kind of home lab for the year. And then everything culminates with a presentation and report at the end of the year. We have a few participating departments that you can see here, but I want to say that on our website, we have a list of participating faculty that kind of have dual appointments in a variety of different programs at OHSU. So I would say, if you're interested in the program, take a look at the list of sort of vetted faculty mentors. But if you are interested in maybe someone who's not listed on the website, you actually can also include individuals who have not been associated with PrEP before, though I would say, usually it's nice. It gets a little overwhelming because there's so many research faculty. So we have kind of a curated list on our website of individuals who have mentored students, have been affiliated with PrEP in some way, and have done some mentor training. So this is our application components, personal statement, which is a 1-page PDF that should emphasize research experience, 2 letters of recommendation, some information from your education and demographic background, the labs of interest that I mentioned earlier, as well as some short answer questions and kind of other typical application materials. And then I do have a couple slides here that talk a little bit about application tips to avoid any pitfalls. I'm going to share these with Deb, but just to keep things in mind, always remember to answer prompts. Do remember to emphasize the graduate experience, especially if you're thinking about an MD, PhD program. OHSU PrEP is really focused on enriching research experiences and not necessarily those clinical experiences. So I just want to be clear about that. And just really encouraging you to, ask individuals who know you well, encourage meeting with them to get a strong letter of recommendation. I know that, you don't see necessarily what they'll write about you, but you do have it within your power to give them direction on what they should say and how to really highlight your strengths in the program. And with that, these are some photos from individuals in our PrEP program, a few scholars from past years. And on the right-hand side, we have 3 of our 4 current scholars. And that's another thing I wanted to say. We're a relatively small program. We should have possibly 6 slots next year. So you get a lot of individualized support. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I see some questions in the chat. Deb, could you help us so we can get some answers?
Absolutely. So we started off with questions about the competitiveness of these programs. What is the competitiveness? What is the acceptance rate? And when they do they apply to work with a certain PI or a professor, or how does that work? That's the first question.
Okay, so let's start with Colorado.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know we were showing our slides. I could have thrown mine up too, but I think it's kind of it's similar enough. And I did throw the link to our website into the chat for anybody. So even though you didn't get to see the slides that I had, hopefully you can pop on if you're interested in Colorado, and you can take a look at the website that has all that information. Last year was this cohort that we're in right now is our very first cohort of scholars. And so the competitiveness, I think, was probably the least amount last year because we were just getting the program started and there was the least amount of knowledge about it. So far, we're kind of in the middle of starting to review applications. We do a rolling admissions, and it's looking like it's going to be pretty competitive. There's quite a few applicants coming in. And so, yeah, and so I think that to answer that question, they are competitive. The other question about, do you select your mentor? In our program, we do place you with the mentor that based on your research experiences, and we feel is going to be the best for you, because we really, know the faculty that are doing this and who's going to be really good with our scholars, and we want to set them up for the very best mentoring experience possible. But doing something similar, where you do a rotation has always been kind of in the back of our minds as well. And you never know if we'll kind of transition to that. But for right now, we will select the mentors for you. You do have the option on the application to indicate if there's someone specific you really want to work with. And we'll do our best to honor that. However, in the end, we're going to be the ones placing you. So you don't need to reach out to faculty or set any of that up. And then the other question, boy, let's see. I'm losing it, Deb. Oh, I saw a lot of GPA questions roll through.
Yeah, actually, it rolls right into that. The GPA question, does your program have a GPA requirement?
It does not. And so what we are really wanting to see is an upward trajectory. We know that life happens, and that's part of the reason you may be looking for a post-bac program, or maybe when you first started in college, you didn't quite have it down, and now you figured life out and you figured out the academic side. But what we want to see is whatever the challenge, the obstacle, whatever it is that you face, that you persevered through that, and then that you've had an upward trajectory since. So if you haven't gotten a hold of your academics just yet, then that might be a little bit of a red flag, but it's not really a GPA that we're looking for, most definitely not.
All right. IUPUI?
So we do have a GPA requirement is 3.0. Like I said, we've been 10 years now in the program, because I had to do that for the application. We were average about 80 applications per year. Last year was not as good. We have 6 slots, for our program. Each of the areas that I mentioned, has a faculty liaison. So when you go to our webpage, that faculty liaison is the person that, if you're interested in somebody in the area, we'll link it to the webpage, and we encourage you to talk to the faculty liaison or email the faculty liaison, because it'll show you what are the mentors associated with the IPREP program. We have rotations too. We have 3 rotations that occur in July. Yeah, so we ask you in your application, is there somebody that you're interested to work in the lab? And if that's possible, we try to work with that individual. But for the most part, we assign you the mentor based on the faculty liaison from that specific area. So.
Okay. Any more from? Let's move on. We'll come back to just the alumni, because I think they'll have some special insight. Let's do Oregon.
So I think maybe the thing of top of mind is the GPA. So we don't have a GPA requirement. Similar to what Chandra said, I think that if you have if you've had any obstacles in your academic record that you wish to address, there are opportunities to really highlight that in your application, or maybe speaking with your letter of reference writer to address that. And I think as long as you've demonstrated some sort of improvement, that really shouldn't be a hindrance. And then I think I spoke to this earlier. As part of our application, you have the opportunity to identify 3 to 5 faculty that you might be interested in working with. And we have a curated list on our website that you can start kind of there with looking at, their research projects and You are not necessarily required to reach out to faculty for that. We don't really engage with the faculty until the students are admitted and selected, and then kind of start that process. So you don't have to kind of add that other kind of homework to your application. Was there anything else?
No, I think some of it's all rolling together. So I
Okay.
think that would be good for now. If the two alumni have any ideas that they want to get, although this is more for pretty much admission and application. So this may not be where you have a lot of insight, but you're welcome. If you don't, it's okay. How was the process as someone applying? How easy, hard? You know, how did you find the application process in itself? I guess we'll do Alpha, Indiana first.
Great. So just quick introduction. So Dr. Bahamande introduced me. My name's Eddie. I'm a fourth year clinical psychology graduate student. And I did our IPREP program, I guess if I'm a fourth year, it would be 5 years ago. And so I looking back to that process, I feel like it was pretty straightforward. I think that process wasn't too difficult. I think, you know, standard kind of application materials. And I think the requirements were pretty straightforward. I mean, you didn't have to have something like, you know, a GRE or anything like that to kind of, you know, get in, and turnaround was pretty fast. Standard interview process afterwards. So I think that process for someone who, you know, was juggling kind of end of senior year with kind of, you know, like, what am I going to do after this? It wasn't something that like was too time consuming or too challenging to juggle with things there. Yeah, that's my perspective from what I remember, and that's 5 years ago. So I know that, yeah, some of those nuances of kind of what goes into the application, Dr. Bahamande would be able to better answer, but from my perspective, that's fine.
Thanks, Eddie. Any more comments as an alumni? You know what, while I have you right here, maybe since we're talking and we want students to understand, what made you decide to apply to a formal post-baccalaureate program versus just take some courses and reapply or apply for a graduate program? What did you see as the special benefit? Even though you can see all the benefits the programs would list, something had to make you think, this is what I need to do. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I can jump in with that. So for me, my undergraduate degrees were in neuroscience and in psychology. And, you know, my situation when I reached my senior year was one where I had just started to get involved in research. I had started to get involved to a level where I knew it was something that I wanted to pursue a graduate degree in. But, you know, I was kind of juggling this bit at the end of like, well, I've only been like a lab. I only have a very limited skill set. And so when looking at kind of opportunities after graduation, I came across PrEP. I think I attended a informational meeting, I think much like this one, and heard about a few PrEP programs, and saw that, you know, a number of reasons to kind of apply to a PrEP program. The primary being kind of the targeted assistance that you receive for kind of like diving into a specific field, being matched with a mentor, the support that you get. It really seemed to be something that would help you if you were interested in graduate school, but just needed that little extra push, or needed that extra bit to kind of refine your research interests, which is the category that I fell into. I certainly was still kind of juggling a bunch of different interests, and wanted to take a kind of deep dive into research some more. And so that was kind of my primary motivation. And yeah, I'll leave that. I'll leave some for Queenster to answer there.
Okay. Well, did you have
Thank
anything
you.
more? Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much. Everyone, my name is Queenster. I am currently participating in Northwestern School of Professional Studies Post-Bacc program. So it's not a PrEP program. I wish I actually participated and applied in a prep program. I graduated from college in 2016. So as you heard in the presentations, most of the prep programs have about a time limit in which you could matriculate into their program. So so it's great that you asked that question, Dr. Shaw, about, someone just, taking classes versus being in the prep program, because I'm sort of on that other side, but even still in this post-bac program. So with the School of Professional Studies, it's sort of here at Northwestern, it's designed for either career changers or those that are working full-time, as I am, and want to sort of get back into the academic mindset, into the academic flow, and need some more classes to sort of get some more experience in that field if they've been away from classes for a while. So that's what I do. So I actually pay to take classes, but as a current Northwestern employee, there's a discount that I get, a 90% off discount, which is wonderful. The classes are about $2,000 per unit per course. So that comes out to be about $200 that I pay. And in terms of the application, there was a 3.0 GPA requirement, very similar to some of the programs. I had to send in my transcript, I had to write a personal statement, complete an application, submit a resume. So yeah, that was my process in doing that. But the reason why I wanted to get complete a post-baccalaureate program is my goal is to matriculate into medical school. And I actually had applied for medical school the year prior to applying for this program. And that was a concern that the admissions committee told me that they had. They said, everything looks great, your application, your letters of recommendation, everything worked out really great. But the only concern they had was how long I had been away from being in classes. And med school is, it just the rigor is high. So they wanted me to take some classes, get refamiliarized with what it's like to be in academia. So this program, specifically, it's the Advanced Biology for Health Professions. So it's for people that have already completed their core requirements. So it's not like you're retaking OChem, organic chemistry, and everything all over again. You're taking upper level classes that, so you basically say, yeah, I am capable of performing well. So I just wanted to shine some light on that. So if you're on the fence with prep programs, I highly encourage you to do it. I know typically it's like the 3-year after graduating.
Okay, Deb, we have any more questions?
We do have some questions that are for the panelists. One of them is about personal statements. How did they craft a good one? And then the other one will go toward the programs, and that's more about what they cover as far as costs go. So the first one's personal statements.
Okay, so let's do personal statements first, and then we'll come back and do costs, because those are in 2 different areas. All right, let's start with Colorado.
Well, I thought that they were wanting to hear from the students. Are they wanting to hear from us?
I believe they do if they're
alums?
talking about costs and personal statements.
Oh, personal statements, though, they were asking for the student, for the.
Oh,
for
they
the
actually want the
alums.
students. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Students, Eddie and.
I can jump in first if you don't mind, Eddie.
Okay.
Yeah, so for personal statements, I guess the question there is like, what do you put in there? What do you like? How do you craft that? And for me, when I was speaking with the admissions counselor for the program, what they really emphasized was like being really real about why I want to partake in this program. Like, generally everyone will have the same, like the end goal is, you want to participate in this so that you can stand out, improve, be a better student, be a better thinker, all of those things. But then there's something unique that like there's an internal intrinsic motivator that it's just unique to each and everybody. So you just be clear about that. So I actually pulled up my personal statement and I'm looking through it, and I talked about the process of applying to med school and the disappointment that I felt and the hard time it was going through all of that just to get so close, but not make it. And then really coming to terms with the fact that I could either just reapply and not change anything and be in denial about the fact that I need to do something substantial to improve my application and put my best foot forward, so that I would be, I would really showcase the type of person that I am, so they get a more holistic view of who I am versus just like, oh, the system is rigged, they only pick these certain types of people, blah, blah, blah. So actually being real about, okay, Queenster, you've been out of school for a while and that's just it. Things have changed even in the past 3 years. Like just go back to school, take some classes. So that was my thing. I was reluctant. I knew it was something I needed to do, but I thought I could sort of sneak past it and they would see everything else was great. But then it's like, no, I needed this. And I think had I actually matriculated straight into school, I would have really, really, really struggled, because even in this post-bac program, even though I'm working full time and doing that, there was an adjustment period of, oh my God, I am not the same undergraduate student that I was 7 years ago. Like, one, how do I learn? How do I study? In what environment do I learn in? And the different roles and responsibilities that I have now with family, with church, with relationships, all these different things. So that has been like the real eye opener that I've been able to get while doing this. So just being real in your personal statement, that part comes across and it'll help you stand out. That's what I wanted to add.
Thank you so much. Now, Eddie, before you give your ideas, because you're an alum, I want you to maybe focus in on more, because actually Queenster is highlighting one of the distinct differences that I see with a more health professional medical school post-bac than a research-based PhD prep post-bac. Tell me how specific the prep post-bac program actually help you not only prepare your application and look better to get into the medical school, as with Queenster, that's what you're trying to do. And actually, it's a little different with the prep programs from what I see. You're actually doing the research. You're actually front loading your research career in a lot of ways. So can you actually talk about that for us?
Yeah, and that's a great point, Dr. Sean. I was thinking about highlighting that, so I'm glad that you already highlighted that difference. But yeah, I think Queenster did a great job of highlighting that, personal statements generally, right? They're personal, right? They're getting to know you. But I'd say from kind of the prep perspective, kind of more research focused perspective, you also have that challenging role of kind of trying to integrate your research into that research goals, and kind of weaving those threads together. So, you still have the same aspects of, you want to have some kind of, personal flavor to it. You don't want it to just be kind of a longer resume or a CV. You want there to be some element of you in that paper. But you're also doing things like, talking about your past research experiences, talking about your career interests, your research interests, what kind of things you've done so far, what kind of things you want to do, and really addressing that question too of, how can prep be helpful in helping me meet those goals? And so outlining specific mentors that you're interested in working with, or specific research techniques, or specific projects that you're really interested in. And so, you kind of get into this this really interesting situation where, you've got a page and a half or 2 pages, however long personal statements are. You've got to put yourself on the paper, you got to talk about research, and then you also have to kind of weave in some elements of, and this is why I think, this program will be interested in, or will be a good fit for me, while they'll be a good fit for whatever the flip of that is. And in a way, it really does kind of mirror applications to graduate school, because that's the kind of personal statements that they also want to see. And so it's really geared towards kind of setting you up in that way. I think when I was actually applying for graduate school, I actually did take parts from my prep personal statement, and I'm like, wow, this was, already, a part of that. Now I can update it with, the new skills that I've gotten from prep and apply that to graduate school. So similar in that kind of, you want to have yourself there, but you're kind of trying to blend a bit more of that information in there,
Right.
if that makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you. And now I think the other thing was cost. Is that perspective from the panelists?
Hey, Dr. Shaw, before we go into that, there was one question related back to personal statements. And one
Okay.
of the questions was, if in fact that they wanted to address some sort of disability or something like that, how in depth do they need to go in their personal statement?
That probably should go to the program people, because you know what you're looking for, or what you would like to see if a student did have a challenge or something going on.
Biggest thing for us is we want to know who you are after reading that personal statement. So it's disappointing when you get to the end of we have a personal statement and a research statement. So, there's two separate statements you get to submit for our program. But if I read through all of that and we go through that, and at the end of it, we really don't know any more about you. We don't know who you are as a person. We don't feel like we've gotten to know you. It's pretty disappointing. And so really make sure that we know you as a person, that like exactly what Queenster was saying, like help us get to know you and feel like we have that connection with you through that personal statement. And, along with that, sometimes comes talking about the struggles. People are really hesitant to talk about the struggles they've gone through and some of the disadvantages they've had to face. And oftentimes that's your strength, the fact that you've gone through that, the fact that you've persevered through that, and you've learned how to handle and manage disabilities that you may have, or disadvantages that you've grown up with. The fact that you are still moving and shaking, and you still know who you are and what you want to be in the future, and that you are determined to get there despite those, and how you've overcome them, I think is a really powerful thing. And so don't shy away from explaining that and talking to the committee about that, because that really shows who you are as a person in a really positive way. If all you do is talk about how awful it was and you have nothing that you've learned as a person, that's different, right? I mean, then that's a whole nother thing. We leave kind of thinking that you have some work to do before you're ready for our program on yourself. But for the most part, those things actually show your character in a really great way. So don't hesitate.
Great comment. Anything from Indiana or Oregon related to personal statements?
I think pretty much everybody covered that. We want to see why are you interested in our prep program? How is the prep program is going to help you reach the next level to get your PhD? And so that's important. If you have a disability, we need to know, because it's part of the NIH reporting system. So we have to know, and you're required to report it through NIH. Yeah, I think, with the personal statements, also make sure that, I'm sure everybody knows, have a lot of people read it before you send it. This is something that a lot of students don't think about, that, and they just write it and send it. And we want to have a lot of people read it, proofread, make sure that, that it's easy to read, and that it's not something that people don't understand what are you talking about. So.
Thank you, Dr. Barmundi. Actually, and what you're saying is sometimes what we obviously think students think about, but sometimes they don't. So yes, go to your writing center, let your best friend read it, let other past people who've been in programs read it. If you know some graduate students, let other people read it and get an honest opinion. Don't just keep it to yourself, and please spell check. Oh my goodness, very important.
I just wanted to add, I think, for our application, there's some demographic questions. So I think it asks, if you have a documented disability, I forget the exact phrasing, and then you can check a box there. So that's for like eligibility and reporting to the NIH, should you be accepted into the program. As for in your personal statement, I echo what the other prep programs already said. I think I would also add, just thinking about it in the context of why you're disclosing this information for the purpose of the program, like if it's relevant to your academic journey or your research, the personal part of that, and sort of why that's relevant. And just consider like, and this is something we talk about in prep, it's strategic self-disclosure, right? So as you prepare to apply to other opportunities like graduate schools, you want to know how to leverage that appropriately. And sometimes, you don't want to share everything that you've gone through, good or bad. But I think that's something that we kind of learn as we navigate this. So that's all I wanted to say.
Great words. You really don't want to hit a committee. I've been in the admissions dean. You don't want to hit them with all the challenges that you had and then never say what you gained from it, because the committee then wonders, can you handle their program? So, well, Deb mentioned cost, and I know several of the presentation talked about cost and compensation. So does anyone have any additional information?
Sure. We pay about $35,000 health, including health benefits. We do not offer relocation cost, and we have very limited housing here at IUPUI, as you know, Pan. But we really try to encourage our cohort to room together. Sometimes we're great, sometimes we have not. So we have people living together. We try to meet them before they come over and say, look, and we provide them with housing assistance and say, you want to stay here, you want to stay over here. So we do help them with that, but we don't really have the ability to provide with housing on our campus. The challenge with this program, and some of you know this is their employees of the university, and sometimes the university do not allow you to pay for certain things. It's against the law, against state law, I think, and maybe other states have the same thing. So that's one of the challenges. The other thing I want to mention was that if you're thinking about doing MD, the research back are not the right place to go. We're not going to prepare you with the MCATs. This is not what it is now. If you're thinking going to MD PhD, which is tough to get in, we have to make sure that you are along that track. So because one of the challenge again with the program is that if somebody go the MD route and they'll get into a PhD program, NIH doesn't consider that as a successful pathway.
Yeah, that's good. The same for us. If you're really interested in a PhD, it's a simple moving forward in the prep. But MD PhD sometimes can be tricky because first of all, it's incredibly hard to get into those programs. And so if you don't get in, we have to try to feel out, are you going to be more likely to go PhD route or MD route? And if we think that it's MD, we won't be accepting you into our program. However, we now are offering or partnering with our med school, and they're offering a program called Prestige, which is for MDs. And so we're hoping that will alleviate some of that. We still have a lot of MD people putting down MD PhD in their applications for us. And it's concerning because you shouldn't be putting that unless you are the best of the best of the, you have to be so high. And I think the problem is, I think a lot of people do not know or understand what it takes to get accepted to an MD PhD school. It is not a simple task. And so, yeah, so you should know all about MD PhD before you're marking that down on an application, because that's a pretty big reach for some people.
It is not only a big reach, it is also a difficult road. And often students they start, but they don't complete the programs. And then just be realistic as a student. If you're looking at a post-baccalaureate program to better your application, that should be telling you a little bit about where you are. And a lot of times it is so tough. The competition is just tough. And this is a point in time in your career game, you need to be realistic. And then it's not that everybody who applies who may have been in a prep program won't get through an MD, PhD, or even get admitted, but you have to remember and take the road that's going to fit you best. There are post-baccs for pre-medical, pre-dental, for all those. Seek those out, but this would not be it's just not even the goals of the program. So.
You know, the other thing that I would want to mention is that sometimes we get students that we're wondering why they even apply for a post-bacc because they have so much research experience. They have 4.0 GPA. They are completely, this person should be into a doctoral program already. So sometimes they didn't apply, they decide late, so they try, the post-bacc is not a gap year solution. That's what I tell people. It's something that, you know, so more likely if the committee sees that you have the potential to be, they say, you know, why are you applying for this? This is not a good use for somebody's spot.
And I mean, realistically, when you think about it, students, time is money. So the time you was spent, you could be moving on if you're already competitive enough and apply at the program you need. Don't take that time and take that year when you could have one more year of work or doing what you really want to do down the road. So that's a good idea, you know, for a committee not to let someone who really needs that opportunity take that spot.
Yeah, I'm gonna put somebody in the chat posted that the MD-PhD applications don't really follow the IPREP cycle. I mean, think about it. It's a one-year program. You come in the August, you have to start applying already.
That's right.
For that. So a lot of times you will have to take a year off and to apply for the MD PhD programs. Right.
So I mean, that's time. It's you know, you need to get smart with your time and costs. Medical schools consistently going up and up and up. And even if you get some type of scholarship, there's still costs. So, okay. Any more questions from the chat, Deb?
Yes, actually, we have a couple more questions. One of them is to the Northwestern prep group as well as the UW Madison prep group that are here. They wanted to know if with those programs they got to choose their mentor, and then what is the competitiveness of the UW program?
All right. Well, let's hear from the UW program first, since we have it.
Dr. Van Dunk, I think, is on, UW, you said?
I think that's who you said. Then is that what they asked?
Yeah, they were asking about UW. It's Caitlin.
University of Wisconsin. Yeah, there's Caitlin on.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
All right, hi, I am Caitlin Paz. I am the program manager for UW Prep. We are a new program, so we are also just having our first cohort of scholars going through right now. So we have 4 spots available. And with our program, our students or our scholars will start August 1, and they will go through 2-week rotations with mentors of interest, with the goal of having them find their home lab by September. So you're not admitted directly to a faculty in our program. Also, along with our program, our application date is coming up next week, so it's very soon. But I'd just like to say that that is only the student portion that is due. So we'll allow extra time for letters of recommendation to come in. So if you are interested, I still encourage you to apply, and you can kind of gather those letters after or during the process. Was that all the questions?
I think.
Deb,
was there any other?
Those are the questions for you,
Okay.
Yes. And then the other one was, I think we have Northwestern on the line. And the question was also to you as well about the competitiveness of the program.
Actually, there are 2 of us on the line.
There's someone else. Okay.
I'm John Disterhoft. I direct the Northwestern program, and Cassandra Van Dunk. Cassandra, do you want to take this, or should I? So our program is, we are finishing the 6th year of our program. So we're reviewing applications right now for the 7th year cohort. We have 7 positions 6 are funded by NIGMS and 1 by Northwestern. We have about 65 completed applications. Our application deadline was February 1st, so we're actually going through the applications right now. I was reading some earlier today. So I would say our program is, it's not, I mean, it is competitive. It is exactly how competitive, you know, so we have 7 slots. We have probably 40 applications that are meet the various criteria for our program. And our program is PhD oriented, not MD PhD program oriented. So is that?
Thank you. John was going to ask that question. So yours is an actual prep similar to the other ones?
Correct. We are funded by NIGMS, the same as the other programs that we heard about.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
We do have, because we have 1 Northwestern slot, possibly international students.
I think we lost you for a minute, but it sounds like you said you do have a slot possibly for you have Northwestern funding for an international student.
Sorry, we do have a Northwestern University funded program.
Okay. Okay.
Northwestern University funded slot. So we do have more flexibility with that particular slot. We can take DACA students or international students.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Okay, any other questions, Deb?
We had a question. We had a question about research interest and like the research statement. As far as the research interest, how in depth in the information or concept of the interest should we be?
Okay, anybody want to take that?
Yeah, I can jump into that. So I assume this is for something like a research statement or like a small section of personal statement, as I was referring to earlier. I think the important thing to highlight is that they do have, you know, your resume or your CV. So they are already going to have a lot of that kind of information there. So I think the point of those statements isn't just to kind of list those things out again. It's more to kind of craft your what they call your research narrative, right? Your kind of journey through your research interests. So rather than saying, you know, things like, you know, I worked at this lab for this amount of time, then I did this, then I did this, you're kind of trying to summarize what kind of techniques you gained from there, what kind of, you know, how that helped kind of refine your research interests. So for me, it was something like, you know, I was doing a lot of neuroimaging work in undergrad and a lot of kind of computational neuroscience, and that kind of gave me a lot of more computer-based skills. And so when I was looking to apply to a prep program, I wanted a bit more kind of clinical skills or a bit more kind of like human interaction research subjects, kind of skills like that. And so throughout my research statement or my personal statement, whichever one it was, you know, those were the kind of things that I talked about broadly, saying that, you know, I started off with this interest in, you know, X and, you know, joined a lab to kind of pursue that interest, gain these techniques, but still kind of felt like there was more to do or more to learn. And so kind of, you know, not regurgitating the, you know, very specific things, but kind of trying to craft a story of kind of why you're applying for this program, why you're interested in this mentor, and what you kind of plan to do with that, what your kind of overall goals are.
All right, thank you. Any more input to that question? Okay. Any more questions, Deb? Because I've got a couple I can ask if there are no more.
Why don't you go ahead, Dr. Shaw? I think we've answered most of them, if not all.
Okay, so when you're applying to the programs and you're looking for people to do letters of recommendation, is it more advisable to have someone who's had you in a research lab versus faculty that you've had a class with? And give us some pointers. I get that question often from students when they're getting recommendations. Sometimes they really just don't know who to approach and who will give them not just a letter, check the box, I got a letter. And I always tell students, you want an exceptional letter. You don't just want to check a box. So what would be more of an exceptional letter and who it would be from? And anybody can just come up, can chime in.
I can go first. I think if you have research experience in a lab as a volunteer, as part of a program, or any sort of experience along those lines, I encourage you to ask that individual who supervised you to provide a letter. If you have had, let's say, limited research experiences, maybe it's only been through classes, then do ask one of those individuals to write a letter for you. I think strongly want to see that perspective of someone who's worked with you in that framework. But if you don't have that person and you know, a supervisor from a job or another instructor or faculty member is okay. We have, you know, space for 2 letters. But if you list something on your CV or resume of like a in-depth research experience and don't have a letter from that individual, I think that raises a lot more questions about, you know, why didn't you get a letter from them? So that's just my sense of it at OHSU Prep.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. A lot of times students want a letter from somebody, but they don't make the appropriate approach. So it's very important to time it right, get there quick enough, and give them as much information to give them guidance. And I think someone mentioned that earlier in one of the presentations, which will help secure you a letter that will be more competitive for you. Another question. Oh, go on. Okay.
Just also as a student, make sure that when you ask somebody for a letter, that person can give you a good letter of recommendation. I mean, we have letters that are like a paragraph. I mean, it doesn't really, I had this person in class and that was it. You know, so make sure that you have a person that can give you, that can really knows you and can give you a good letter of recommendation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Not just check the box and just regurgitate. They got an A in my class. They were there and a good student. And that's telling just what the transcript told. So it doesn't help much.
Yeah, and I just wanted to chime in on that, on the importance of that. And for me, I've been very fortunate to, so I attended Grinnell College, and my college advisor for my major, I had classes with, and I also did research with for 3 semesters in a summer. And we also went to conferences together. We were able to publish a paper together. She even during the summer, I was able to like help babysit for her kids and do other things with her outside of the college. So this person to me is someone that has seen she has seen so many different versions of me in class, in research, in conferences, even in her home, like taking care of her kids. So she is my go-to person for anything, like job applications, everything, for anything I apply for, a reference. She is that person because she has known me and she can really speak to me as a person. And then in terms of giving them time, what I like to do for my when asking for recommendations, when they say yes, because sometimes they could say no if they don't really know you that well, but when they say yes, I give them like a packet. I give them my resume, I give them my personal statement, and then I give them things that as they, I think it was Dr. Joyce who mentioned it, guide them in what that you want them to highlight. So if you have someone who's going to highlight some of your leadership skills or what you do, your community service, so you can sort of highlight other things like your research, your discipline, your communication skills, your written skill, interpersonal skills. So that is something you can ask, so you can get that specific thing highlighted through that person. So wanted to chime that Dr. Shaw, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've got a doggy in the background that barks occasionally. I have another question. A lot of the students are also preparing to get, again, for an admissions process to a graduate program. Are there opportunities for graduate admissions test prep and application prep and preparing your graduate statement or looking at things to enhance that process for students in your programs?
Yeah, so in our program, we do a lot of that. We do a full round of mock interviews. We have faculty come and talk to them and prepare them for interviews. We have them, we have writing workshops where they get to work on their statements and get feedback from a lot of people on their writing. And so there's a lot of opportunities for professional development in our program.
And I'm assuming the other two programs, all programs probably have some facet of that.
Yeah, we do the same thing. We help them with the professional with the statement. We do mock interviews. We have a consultant that actually that person prepare them for interviews. Help him do the 3-minute elevator speech. They send videos of that. So yeah, we do, and they work with the mentors with the statement, and they also work with the members of the executive committee. So there's a lot of help with that.
Same. Yeah, fall term is really busy in that regard. I think we also begin it with like a values exercise to really identify which programs you, like the prep scholars, are most interested in applying to, because I think sometimes there's this focus on sort of big name places and whatever they cover in terms of tuition costs, but we really want to encourage students to think about their entire 5 or 6 year graduate school experience, right? Whether where you're going to live, what's the quality of the mentorship. So we have a lot of discussions about that, in addition to all the similar resources about preparing your materials for application.
Wonderful. So I know I think I heard it in a couple of the presentations, if not all, there are opportunities to go to different conferences, SACNAS, AMCROM, a variety of different conferences. Is this covered through the program? Are students required to spend any resources for it?
Hi, so
go ahead, Cassandra.
This is Cassandra Van Dunk talking for Northwestern University PREPS program. I'm the assistant director of this program. And so all the conference attendance is fully covered by the PREP program. So we even try to do everything we can to get the hotel costs and flight costs, taken care of immediately by the program. So there's very little even reimbursement involved, if at all possible.
Good. Sounds good.
Yeah, the same thing with us. We pay for our comms, and then we also encourage them to go. We have funding too, so they can go with their mentor to a professional, to whatever conference for their professional area.
And for the alumni, and Eddie in particular, where did you go?
Yeah, for my conference.
Yes, while you were in the prep program.
Yeah. So we did ABRCAMS, and we also did SACNAS that year, because SACNAS was something that was I think a bit more timely for application season. And so from the alum perspective, definitely go to either ABRCAMS or SACNAS if you can. There's a lot of graduate school representatives there. The networking is great. A lot of times you end up speaking with individuals who can help you with kind of fee waivers for applications for graduate school, which is really helpful for kind of offsetting some of those costs, because it does get costly. And you also get an opportunity again to kind of have conversations with students in programs or reps, and kind of help build that list of schools that you want to apply for. So did that at both SACNAS and ABRCAMS, and presented at both of them as well. And so great to also kind of have the opportunity to kind of present your research in front of individuals in your field there. So that was a great experience for our year. And I think most people did that our year, because I think our year we had ABRCAMS in Indianapolis that year. So that was kind of our way of like, okay, let's do another one that we can fly over to rather than kind of walk down the street. So that was a great opportunity that popped up for us. But I know that other students and alum have gone to different conferences.
Any more questions in the chat, Deb?
No, Dr. Shaw, I don't see any, but if anybody
Okay.
did have some, please go ahead and paste it back in. I might have lost it in the string, but I think we got them all.
Okay, I have another question kind of related to acceptance. You've gone through your prep program, you've applied. How likely can I possibly go to the school where I'm attending my prep program? Is that something you see often with your students?
I'm curious to hear about some of the more established prep programs for this, but our cohort of last year, I think all of them stayed at OHSU in some capacity. A few in graduate programs as first year PhD candidates, and then I think 2 who stayed on to continue working in a lab and have now this cycle applied to graduate program or other programs.
So this is John Disterhoft again. As I said, we are finishing our 6th year. Thus far, every year we've had at least one of our prep scholars going to one of our graduate programs. We that likely will be the case this year. So, and sometimes more than one, but so it is a possibility.
Good, good.
Yeah, we have about, we encourage them to apply to some of the programs that they, and some of them get offers from the labs they're working. But like I said, we have about 20% of our students are prep scholar stayed at IUPUI or Indiana University.
Yeah. Sounds good. And I'm wondering, even the fact that there's the prep network, it's also something good when graduate schools see it on an application when they have a prep program, because they will understand the tenets of the preparation a student has received. So, all right. Well, any questions from the panel that we didn't talk about that you think is important for everybody to hear? Yeah. Or any statements or comments? No? Well,
I guess I have one more thing actually that I'd like to say. I don't know if it was covered. This is Cassandra from Northwestern again. I would just encourage any interested students, if you have questions, reach out to the programs. I feel like a lot of interested students get really anxious about reaching out to faculty or to administrators of the programs, but that is absolutely what we're here for. We want to hear from you. We want to answer your questions. So if you have any hesitation, any question on the application components, program components, anything, just do not hesitate to reach out to us.
It's okay. One more question popped up, Dr. Shaw, and it was how long until they hear back after applying?
okay, good question. Anybody? I mean, is there a certain?
So
Okay.
our application cycle ends March 1st. The first 2 weeks of March, we try to narrow down the pool of applicants. We normally interview 12 fellows, 12 candidates, and then after that, after we do the interviews, we try to, within a week, we try to come back and make an offer. So hopefully by the beginning of April, they'll find out if they have an offer or not.
Similar timeline for OHSU.
Good.
We can go a bit later, like we'll start offering, but until we get all the acceptances in place, you could still continue to be offered. And so we typically wait a little while until early May, late April to fully deny somebody, because there's always a chance that, that somebody won't accept a position and they'll be able to offer a spot. They'll be on the wait list. So
It's the same for us at Northwestern, same as Chandra.
So it could be students are applying to multiple programs and trying to see where they get in. Okay.
I will say for us, this is something that I think differs a lot from the different programs. We ask for 2 weeks for them to get their response to us. So I think that might differ between programs, just so that, you know, we can get to the next person on our list if we need to.
Okay.
There's some students that are waitlisted for grad school, and last year we had a couple find out that they got accepted off the wait list last minute. And so then we were pulling from our wait list. And so that's why we were kind of holding off till a little bit later to fully deny students.
Yeah, probably after you're a few more years in, you might not have that problem. Yeah. All right. Well, any more questions? I think we're almost at our time. Everybody, thank you so much for the panel. Once again, remember, this was recorded. You will get information on how to see the recording and the materials. And then finally, please, Deb will put in the chat a link. We'd like you to complete a survey. Please tell us how you enjoyed the webinar and if it actually answered the questions that you were dying to hear answered. And just let us know how well we did. And we once again appreciate you and thank you, and join us again.
Thanks for organizing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
You.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to all the attendees. Thank you, Dr. Shaw.
No, thank you, Deb. Thank you so much.
Alexander, did you have any other questions? You might just be hanging on.
Did somebody stick around with a question? Sometimes they do.
Nope,
All
they're
right,
gone.
Deb, I
Scared
was.
them away.
Well, thank you so much for being behind the scenes.
Oh,